teach them how these things work, down to the physiology, down to the real science. Because as they say, and this is my favorite little analogy because I am a fisherman, you give a man a fish, so you tell someone what to do, all right, they'll eat for a night. You teach someone how to fish, they eat for a lifetime. It's like to not just help people, hold them accountable, and build this amazing relationship as I coach them, but actually show them how things work. So I can really inspire them to stay curious, stay skeptical like any good scientist, and teaching them how to look for certain things and where to look. Hitting the record button.
Did you just take out a Zyn?
It was a knick-knack. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those days.
Mm-hmm. You guys are ruining the intro.
That's a perfect intro.
No, well, I'll tell you guys what. I know that nicotine is an incredible nootropic, and it helps reduce inflammation in the brain. It's been shown to help delay the onset of Parkinson's and dementia, Alzheimer's. Obviously, the potential for addiction is massive. So you want to be very intentional, and you want to, what we'll get into on this show, like you want to leverage your body's ability to produce energy naturally and recover better so that you wake up feeling refreshed and clear. But I'll take like a microdose of nicotine once or twice a week. And I'm talking like 0.5 to maybe 1 milligram. And I don't even let the whole thing dissolve. So it's more like 0.25 to 0.5. And it's awesome. And yeah, everyone uses Zyn, but I like the Knick-Knack brand because it's cleaner.
Oh.
Yeah. And I actually have a predisposition for Parkinson's. And so it makes me feel a little bit better when I take this, but I haven't taken it enough to the point where I feel like I depend on it. Absolutely not. In fact, I don't really need anything to feel good as far as stimulants go. Coming from a guy that took Adderall XR every day at the maximum prescribed dose for a decade, it's nice to say that. So yeah, little Knick-Knack.
Knick-Knack was a brand.
Little Knick-Knack is great. Yeah.
Does it taste like the Zyn that's got that like little burst that's in your mouth?
Yeah, it's got that little sizzling,
It's definitely
a tingly feeling. And there's a few different flavors you can get. So yeah.
I wrote it down. Check it out.
Cool.
That's not the best intro on our podcast. I don't know what is.
So anyway. All right. Well, I don't know where we're going to start, but I guess we'll do it here. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And that conversation was with my man, Andreas, over here. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. It's great to be here with you guys.
Yeah. So obviously, the listeners got a little bit of a sneak peek of some of the info that you have, but I'd rather them hear from you what it is that you do, who you are, what your story is, and of course, what you're working on now. And a little backstory is I met my man here at that great event in Florida that I hosted, where we were all hanging out on a boat and becoming friends under the
little boat, a little float.
It was a dinghy. Yeah, it was a dinghy. we had water wings on. It was phenomenal, but we became friends, and we found out we have a lot of things in common, from our childhood to our great glory as gamers, and now just these guys who are living a great life. So, Andreas, again, welcome to the show. Please tell the listeners who you are, what you do, and how you do it.
Great to be here, man. So where do I start? Maybe I'll start with this. Put it this way. You know how everybody nowadays, especially folks that tune into this show, and certainly the folks that tune into my podcast, everybody that has access to a phone and social media, we get bombarded with health and fitness and information and content, and it's everywhere, right? Like if you wanted to Google search something, it's there. There's endless podcasts, Huberman, Atia, etc. There's like so much information out there, and all of us are trying to make sense of like, all right, well, what works best for us, and what's most relevant? Like, what should we prioritize? So that's where someone like me comes in. I'm a physiologist, neuroscientist, and health coach, and I basically help you take this mass amount of content and help you understand your unique context and how the content fits in. So the way that I do that is I take, my clients and anyone that follows me, I inspire them, and I make sure to suggest very thorough, very in-depth, very comprehensive testing. Everything from, very comprehensive blood panels that you should do, in my opinion, at least, twice a year, ideally once a quarter. Doing a DEXA scan for body composition, it's the gold standard. Everybody has these like fancy new weight scales that are precise but not accurate. Genetic tests, obviously a safe genetic test. There's obviously been data breaches with major companies, and there's a few companies out there that are actually doing a great job. And wearable device data. Most folks that are into health and fitness nowadays in the US especially, they have some kind of wearable device, an Apple Watch, a Whoop, an Aura. But most people just look at that data and they go, oh, okay, I got some decent sleep, nice. Or hey, look, that's my recovery score, okay. But they don't actually do anything with it. They don't know how to use it. They don't know how to make sense of it. So I help people understand that and basically quantify their health and take an evidence-based, data-driven approach to, perform higher, live longer, feel better, and accomplish their best body composition, gaining muscle and losing fat sustainably. And all this started with my personal journey, as you can imagine. I'm obsessed with what I do because I've seen the difference firsthand. And like I said earlier, I spent 10 years taking Adderall. I thought I had a broken brain from ages 8 to 18. That was just my MO. I would take this before going to school every single day, work my way up to the maximum prescribed dose. And I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't socializing because I had a stutter. And it was I was completely socially isolated. I was skeletal, like skin and bone. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I would wear a long sleeve to school every single day just to hide my body. I had no friends. And yes, video games were my escape, like Vin. And I think the combination of just being around my parents who are medical doctors and seeing how rewarding it was to apply science to help others in a meaningful way, the combination of that, just being a math science kind of student, and also my passion for gaming and kind of like leveling up in a game, almost like leveling up in life. Like, I think it was the perfect storm to help me appreciate an evidence-based approach to personal development. And it wasn't until I came across the concept of neuroplasticity during a summer scholars program while I was in high school that I happened to learn about neuroplasticity. And it's this idea that you can change and upgrade your brain, that your brain is plastic, that it's not like, oh, you're born with this brain, that's just what you get. Like, you can actually change your brain. And I started to learn about this on that in that program while I was on a college campus as a high school student. I was on a summer break, so I technically wasn't on the medication. And I had unlimited access to all of these things that we know promote neuroplasticity unlike anything else, social life, the gym, dining hall. And so all of a sudden I was getting better sleep. I was making friends. I was working out, and I was eating unlike ever before because now I wasn't on the meds. I suddenly had an appetite and I was exercising. So my body was like starving for nutrients. And within 2 months, I gained an insane amount of muscle. It was almost like I had taken steroids. Like, nobody could believe that I did this naturally. And that's just how deprived I'd been for so long. I just soaked this up, and not just physically, but mentally. And I started to feel confident for the first time in my life without medication. And I decided, I'm going to double down on what I'm learning here. I'm going to just totally go and dive headfirst into what's happening. And that year, after that summer break, that school year was my junior year, the most difficult year of schooling as a high school student. It's extremely competitive. You're taking your standardized exams, you're applying to colleges. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to, because I was eligible for extra time on all my exams because of my diagnosis. I was like, I don't want to look back and think to myself, I've discovered this new stuff, this new science. I'm leveling up in life. I don't want to get extra time. Like, I want to see what I'm capable of naturally. I want to know that I got into the right school and that I got into the right field, just me being myself. And so I doubled down on this stuff, which was the hardest thing to do, because while that sounds sexy and exciting, quitting the medication was terrible. Like in fact, I didn't realize how addicted and dependent I was until I had asked my parents, hey, can you please hide the meds from they were up in the kitchen, pantry. They're like, can you please hide the meds? I don't even want to see them. And before I asked them to do that, this was completely unconscious. I took some of the pills and I hid them in my room. And then when I felt that urge, I would take them like candy. And it was fucked up. I didn't realize how messed up that was until much later on in my life. But it just goes to show, how reliant we become on things beyond ourselves to feel good about ourselves. And so anyway, to make a long story short, that was really difficult to do, but applying the stuff that I was learning made a meaningful difference. I started to feel incredible, look incredible, make more friends. And believe it or not, I ended up going from, I was a mediocre student, even with the medication. And I ended up my last 2 years being top of my class, 99th percentile on the ACT, got into my dream school, which is actually where I did the summer program, University of Miami, on a scholarship. And all of a sudden I had the chance to go really, really, really deep on science that really fascinated me. because I was seeing the way that that science influenced my daily life. So I went to school and I studied exactly what helped me. I studied exercise physiology, minored in psychology. I started a master's in nutrition and physiology. I was a TA, I was a graduate assistant, I led an internship. I was at the top of my class for many of my classes. And I got an incredible mentor who's actually the head of nutrition and physiology at UM. I started a company with a doctor that I was shadowing in lifestyle medicine once he realized how passionate I was and he wanted to help his patients improve the long-term success of weight loss procedures he was offering. And then all that was incredible. I sort of pivoted a couple of years into that because I wanted to focus on people that I identified with a little more closely with. And I wanted to help prevent a lot of the diseases that I was seeing in this older patient population early on. So basically, I kind of pivoted and I wanted to focus on young, high performers, people that are obsessed with what they do, like me. And I wanted to help them take the steps in their daily life to prevent disease, but simultaneously preventing it by feeling incredible. Because I believe that longevity, it's not about extending lifespan for the sake of more moments, just to be here longer. I think it's about extending lifespan through the quality of this present moment. So if we can maximize the quality of this moment, we're going to live longer. If we feel clear and more energized now, we will live better. And we'll be able to do more of the stuff that we're here to do, more of the stuff that we get excited about every single day. And so now I'm actually doing a second master's in biomedical neuroscience. And over the years, I've had the chance to work with, world leading experts in a variety of fields, everything from world leading business professionals, so Fortune 500 executives and CEOs, to world champion athletes, to very high achieving students that want to get into Ivy Leagues. I mean, you name it. Anyone that wants to apply science and take a data-driven approach to feel better, perform higher, live longer, typically I can get them on board, help them, and feel incredible along the way. So yeah, it's a little bit about me. And outside of all that, personally, I'm a dog dad. I have a mini Aussie named after my favorite scientist, Darwin. He's actually right next to me. I'm a huge fisherman. I love the outdoors, and I love my family, my friends, and building this incredible community of citizen scientists here in South Florida.
Love it, man. And that all of that right there is why I wanted to have you here and why I am thrilled to be able to call you a friend, because the average person or doctor is going to give you 50 pages or 100 pages or 300 pages of data that you're not going to do anything with. And you're going to say, great, I got my results. Now I know how to support myself. But you not only go into the depths with people, you also coach them along the way, making sure that the changes that they want to make, they're actually doing. You cut out the guesswork and you work with them side by side, which I think is a very unique value prop that most people don't do. So can you go ahead and dive a little bit more into what is your process exactly? How do you work with people? Yeah. How do you support them to get the results they're looking for along the way?
For sure. So I'll tell you what, I think at a baseline, what it takes to help someone in a really meaningful way is having trust and being able to identify with them. I think that's the ultimate way to help someone. I think it's the ultimate form of credibility is empathy that comes with trust and being able to identify with somebody. So that's honestly, I would say that's what I would consider one of the prerequisites to being successful in my program is I actually want to make sure that I understand what you're dealing with and how painful it is and what it's going to take to help you. I love working with people that are, very self-aware, that can appreciate the difference that leveraging their health has on any dimension in their life, whether it's professional or personal, and people that are able and willing to transform it. What I mean is, like, I pride myself in providing online content that's completely free, through my podcast and my posts on Instagram and my website. And I try my best to make that as valuable as absolutely possible. But I think that for someone that really wants to transform, and if anyone here, or if you guys have read, Atomic Habits, for example, by James Clear, we know that there's a few different levels of change that someone can accomplish. Most people that are interested in health and fitness, they want better habits or better systems. And those are great, but those are relatively superficial when you look at change the level of your identity. Like, I want to help identify with you, and I want to help you make changes that are realistic and attainable and hold you accountable long enough to the point where you have integrated those lessons at that core level. So by the time that we conclude, you can continue to improve and iterate on your own. So I like to educate people and teach them how these things work, down to the physiology, down to the real science. Because as they say, and this is my favorite little analogy because I am a fisherman, you give a man a fish, so you tell someone what to do. All right, they'll eat for a night. You teach someone how to fish, they eat for a lifetime. It's like the not just help people, hold them accountable, and build this amazing relationship as I coach them, but actually show them how things work. So I can really inspire them to stay curious, stay skeptical like any good scientist, and teaching them how to look for certain things and where to look. So the process, that's the prerequisite and what they're signing up for. The process, the first step is we do all the testing that I mentioned earlier. So we do DEXA, gold standard body composition, an extremely comprehensive blood panel, and a consultation with my functional medicine doctor, who's incredible. That's Dr. Ben Kosubevsky. We get them set up with a genetic test, typically self-decode. I love self-decode. It's super safe and super effective and just so actionable. And then I get them set up with a wearable device, typically a Whoop. And then I have this incredible health dashboard that we've white labeled. So it's our health dashboard powered by Heads Up Health. And that integrates all of this data. So I see the mass landscape of somebody's health, fitness, and performance data. And I help them almost like carve out like a path in that massive like map. I actually call this the MAP method, mastering applied physiology. And it's like a map. It's like you have all these landmarks, right? Like the objective truths within your mind and your body, and I help you navigate a path in your daily life that will objectively help you perform higher, feel better, be more present, be more clear. And as a byproduct of that effect, we get to do what your body wants to do, which is what everybody signs up for initially. They want better body composition. Your body wants to be shredded. Your body wants to be jacked. Your body wants to have muscle and low fat. But we live in a modern world where it's really difficult to do that. Anytime that you go into the grocery store, you are being polluted by billions, if not trillions of dollars of marketing. And it's difficult to make a decision that actually aligns with your physiology, with the way that we were designed. And so you never really get to leverage and tap into these evolutionarily conserved mechanisms that are here to help you feel more human. So basically, I'm here to help you close that gap through my process. I'm here to close the gap between the world within you that evolves linearly from one generation to the next, and the world beyond you that evolves exponentially. This modern world that is full of convenience, it's great, but it detaches us from the world within us. We no longer get to understand what's happening in our body. We can't tap into the signs and symptoms and the signals of what needs to happen, how we need to change to feel incredible. So I basically, among other things, I know this is a lot, we can dive into all these different areas and have individual podcasts on them. I help people feel more human and more like themselves and bring their genius to life and in a very authentic and in a very personal way.
Yeah. And Shane, I know you got something to say, but real quick, for those of you that are not watching this on video, get this on video, because this is a man who lives what he preaches. He literally looks like something Michelangelo carved in marble. So you're going to want to, he's everything he's talking about. You just stare at him and you're like, okay, it makes sense. Now he's red too.
I think
I'll tell you what, you're making me blush over here. What's that?
I think at this point I should leave the podcast and just give you guys a long time here.
Oh my God.
Andreas, I wanted to thank you for sharing your story for addiction recovery. And, I understand the foundational aspect of what you do, but I want to know if it's done the natural way. There's a real, I wouldn't call it a problem because everybody is different in how they do things. But lately, the past 12 months, people have been taking different types of nootropics and peptides and testosterone and other types of these supplements to speed up these results. So I'm going to tie this in. I want to know your beliefs on this and these sped up results, safe results that doctors back up as well. Are you recommending this? Are you also giving out, advice to take these kind of things? And then anything as far as like pills related, let's talk about not pills, supplements. Tell me a little bit more of your process here that, once you get a full scope, you get my blood work, I'm wearing this here, I'm looking at my dashboard and I see Shane's insides and boy, do they not look good. So what are the next steps? For
sure. So as you can see, I'm very excited about this topic because every day I get this question or a similar question, and it fires me up because our brains have been like wired, to be and to seek instant gratification. And it's like a huge issue. It's actually one of the reasons why I decided to go back to school and, basically do a neuroscience master's, because I think that we need to master the engine that's that's here, right? And if we can understand how that works, we have ultimate leverage on how we live our lives and on being the most incredible human beings that we can be in this modern day. And so all that is to say, I'm in the camp of let's help your body increase energy and growth and achieve, this mental clarity through endogenous mechanisms. Let's support your body in doing what it already is built to do. So for example, let's take testosterone, for example, right? The way that I typically describe testosterone is it's something that motivates us to be successful, and it reinforces behaviors that are aligned with our reproductive capacity, right? And so at a baseline, we know that exercise increases testosterone. We know that certain foods increase testosterone, right? And what are some things that diminish testosterone? Well, for example, stress, physiological stress. And that can be just like the way that we perceive the world around us and what's happening to us, and also like lack of sleep. And sometimes overdoing a lot of these hormetic stressors that are objectively healthy. Like, yeah, exercise is healthy, but it can also be overdone. Sauna and cold exposure are all healthy, but they can be overdone. Fasting is healthy, but it can be overdone. A lot of people that want to get healthy, they learn about this new and exciting thing, and they start to just dump that into their lives because they want change desperately. And they are all of a sudden under more stress than they were originally. And now their testosterone tanks because under that perceived stress, the body doesn't want to reinforce that kind of lifestyle. And it'll diminish this hormone that, among other things, reinforces our drive for reproduction. Like, why would your body want to reproduce and pursue that if it doesn't feel like it is prepared to do that? And like the environment is too stressful. Like your body doesn't want to do that. It's like any animal in nature. If you put any animal under stress, the last thing it's going to want to do is reproduce. And actually, I just got a brilliant little thought here, brilliant example. Growing up, I did a lot of aquascaping. I had aquariums and I bred fish. And we had these angelfish. I'll never forget. These angelfish were extremely difficult to breed. Like the conditions that we had to set in the aquarium had to be so specific and so particular. Otherwise, they would not reproduce. And even then, even if you felt like you got it just right, so the nitrates and the nitrites and the ammonia and the phosphorus and the pH and the tannins in the water and the plants and everything, the substrate, even if everything was right, maybe they'd reproduce, but then the male would actually eat the eggs that the female laid because he didn't feel like they were ready. Or the eggs would hatch, the babies would hatch, and then they would eat the babies. So all of a sudden you understand how these different sources of physiological stress can take away from what we want, which is I'm a humanist. I believe that we're here. We want to reproduce, right? And
can I interject real quick?
Sure.
I'm just curious because I'm definitely agreeing with this, but at what point does that diminish with age? Right? Because I know there's with age, and I have friends, right? Most of my friends are in their mid 40s, and I have a couple who are actually on testosterone, and I've wanted to know like the pros and the cons, and they tell me different varieties of things, but mainly the big thing here is that it gets them to not be as lazy during the afternoon. It gets them to essentially finish a full day, amongst other sexual benefits, and then more muscle building here. But they've gotten to a point with their bodies in the mid 40s that I feel that, and first off, American instant gratification is a real thing. Everybody wants the short, quickest way possible. And I'm not saying that's the right way, but to your point, is there a certain way they're like, yes, I recommend this, or
you're sure?
Or that's kind of what I'm getting.
There definitely are cases. What I'm trying to say here, because I know that I tend to speak at 1,000,000 miles per hour and I get so excited about this stuff. So I'll slow down real quick. I'll make this quick point that you can add this in for sure. You can supplement testosterone. There are certain cases where it's relevant, but I think 99% of people, or around that figure, they are not leveraging their body's natural endogenous ability to support testosterone. Like let's add in the TRT. Let's consider that as like a last resort. First, let's get your circadian biology, dialed in. Let's get your sleep absolutely dialed in. Let's improve your nutrition. Let's give you the building blocks of testosterone. Let's eliminate foods and beverages that are tanking your tea. Like, let's get all of those things laid out. And now all of a sudden, we might not even have to add testosterone. And even if we add it in, we only really need a small amount. Because testosterone, I mean, there's a negative feedback loop. You start taking it, your body produces less of it. You become dependent. Just like my ADD and my meds, right? I needed more and more and more and more to feel good about myself. And I was destroying my natural genius. I was getting further and further away from my authentic natural genius. There was no reason why I would have to tap into that, because I had basically cocaine that I was taking to help me focus. Right. So it's like all these things can be overdone. I'm not against them at all. What I'm against is just having this like Band-Aid approach to feeling better.
100%.
And the reason I was talking about my angelfish is because I want to show people how testosterone is something that is there to help you reproduce. And we want to reinforce a lifestyle that's consistent with that. And if we get to do that, then you're going to have the highest levels of T, and you're going to feel safe. You're going to feel confident, and your body's going to want to reproduce when you feel safe and confident. You will want to talk to that girl. You will want to have more sex. You're going to have a better quality of life. You're going to be amped up. And if you look at like evolutionary biology, right? Like we are here, our reproductive success is dependent on our ability to fulfill our ecological niche. And in this day and age, as human beings, that means how well do we do our jobs? How successful are we? How much leverage do we have? How much free time do we have? What quality of life can we maintain as we do what we're good at, right? So like I said earlier, like what people sign up to do with me is to maximize quality of life and leverage their health to do more of what they're good at. Like I want to maximize the quality of life element, because we can always just add testosterone in. Sure, you're going to feel a little better, but there's other things that we're not taking into account. And if we look at these habits, these fundamental habits that we are detached from as modern human beings, we get to set up systems that are way upstream that help us do and do more than just increase testosterone. You know, we get so much more by focusing on these habits that are way upstream. Like, dude, just circadian biology alone will help you increase your T. Like if you get sunlight in the morning and you mimic the sunset in the evening or experience it, like that alone is going to set the foundation so much.
What was it called?
So I'll put it this way. Again, I'm gonna go back to evolutionary biology to show people how detached we are and how simple these habits can be and how meaningful their effects, these effects are. So if you go back, often when people reference like our evolution, they think of just like, okay, Homo sapien, right? A couple million years. Our evolution goes back, like evolution is relevant back like billions of years ago. And there's one thing, among others, there's really one primary thing that's been around, back when we were like a speck of algae in the ocean, and its sun goes up and sun comes down, right? For billions of years, that's been relevant. Okay, sun goes up, sun comes down. It is extremely, extremely, extremely relevant for us in order to feel our best, to experience the sunrise and the sunset. It lays the foundation for absolutely everything else. Most people never get sunlight in the morning. They don't get sunlight in the morning. And if maybe they wake up before the sun or they have a night shift, still they don't expose themselves to light. Now they don't get to take advantage of, again, this endogenous, this natural by the body mechanism that will increase their cortisol, which we know is a stress hormone. Well, guess what? For peak performance, you need a moderate level of stress. If you don't get that sunlight in the morning and you don't get that cortisol to rise naturally, you're going to want to, you're going to crave caffeine, you're going to crave nicotine or some other stimulant to feel activated. You can do that through light exposure. If you can't get the sunlight, as long as you don't need a flashlight to go outside, you're getting sunlight, by the way. And if you can't do that, or you wake up before the sun, you have a night shift, get a sun lamp. Like just get something that mimics the sunrise. All right, now moving through the day, try to get some sun, but then into the evening, this is like the most important thing. You have to either experience or mimic the sunset. Most people are working during the sunset. Most people don't have the time to go out and experience it. But what happens as soon as the sun goes down, what do? They turn on the lights, they go on their phones, they go on their laptop, TV, and all these LEDs have an extremely high proportion of blue wavelength. That blue wavelength, as it interacts with the back of the eye, the retina, sends a signal to what's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your biological clock, and it will wake you up. And this prevents melatonin, sleep hormone, from accumulating, and it keeps cortisol levels high into the evening. And now you have shit sleep. Now you need a sedative or melatonin supplements to help you wind down. So now you've just taken away from your body's natural ability to do this. All you have to do is mimic the sun if you can't get it, right? And be mindful of this process. And so all of a sudden you're abiding by your body's law, by your physiology, and you're feeling better. Now you have better sleep naturally. You wake up, you're more refreshed. You don't need to take anything. All you need is a little bit of sunlight, maybe some hydration, maybe a little bit of movement, maybe a cold shower. And then maybe give yourself like 30, 60, 90 minutes. If you still need something, and as you can tell, there's a parallel between this and the testosterone supplementation. If you still need something, maybe just a bit, maybe just 0.25 milligrams of nicotine like I just took before the show once or twice a week. But like if we lay that foundation out first, right? You get the sun, you're feeling good naturally, you're getting better sleep naturally. Now, when it comes to any habit, like let's say nutrition or supplementation, all of a sudden you're going to need less stimulants. When it comes to nutrition, you're going to feel more intuitive with your food. You're going to actually be able to give your body what it needs. Your body is brilliant. Your body can the cravings that you have are closely tied to what your body actually needs. Like when you're hypoglycemic, you can feel that. When you have low blood glucose levels, you can feel that. And your body craves carbohydrate. Most people have the wrong carbs in their house. They reach in their pantry and it's processed. So they have this little urge for carbs and they choose something that is so processed, it breaks up immediately in the blood. Your blood glucose levels will spike dramatically. And then insulin just tries to pump the brakes, but it overdoes it because your body's not designed to consume processed carbs. And now again, you go from hypoglycemia to hyperglycemia back to hypoglycemia. So it's like, imagine if your body is like a car and these carbohydrates are like the processed carbs are like putting your foot all the way on the gas, right? And then all of a sudden, because you overproduce insulin, it's like you suddenly pump the brakes. You keep doing this and your engine's gonna get fucked, right? Whereas if you take it easy, you have more complex carbohydrates, you have more whole foods, the change is more gradual. So all of a sudden this system is operating more efficiently and you can feel the car. You can feel what the car needs, how much gas you need to put in it, how you need to drive to just, take those effective turns around the corner. Like everything just works so much better. But again, we live in an environment and we live in a world of convenience where that detaches us from these signals, from this interoception, this deep bodily awareness, and we can't give the body what it needs. And also because when you don't get very good sleep, obviously you tank your T, your insulin sensitivity is shot. It's terrible. And you are dysregulated in the morning. So now all of a sudden your decision-making as it pertains to anything, whether it's, with work or loved ones or just how you live your life, you're just more emotional. You can't be logical in your approach to doing what's best for you. You are you are basically just this emotional being, man. That's fine. Emotions are great, but you want to be logical. You want to follow the mission, not the mood. You know what I mean? So let's focus on helping your body do what it's designed to do naturally in the modern world. Our understanding of physiology helps us do that and tap into that.
I love it, man. I feel like we definitely won't have enough time. I mean, actually, we don't have enough time. We're pretty much at the end here. So I got two final questions for you. But there's so much here for people to understand that it's mind blowing. I mean, we need a part 2, a part 3, and a part 10 just to get all of the surface level stuff out of the way to get to the real knowledge. I mean, and this isn't surface level, right? This is deep. This is more knowledge than probably most people have. But obviously, to you, you're such an expert in this. This is probably surface level. There's still levels under. So I'm excited to learn a lot more. But we got these two final questions for you here, and I want to make sure we get to them. And one of them is this: the premise of our podcast is that you don't have to be a billionaire to be a 1%er. Being a 1%er is about achieving excellence in over 99% of other people in a specific category or a specific way of life that you're looking to achieve or grow in. I have a decent idea of what you might say for this, but the question for you is, what is your version of a 1% life?
Man, there's so many different ways that I can spin this, but there was this one time I was thinking about like specific knowledge. I was reading about Tim Ferriss and Naval Ravikant and leveraging your specific knowledge to have a more meaningful impact, to have more freedom, accumulate more wealth, be more happy, etc. And I was thinking, well, it's interesting because you can become 1% of something if you take a variety of different skills that you're at least in the 10 to 20% in, and you find a way to blend them, because now you do like a multiple of, you multiply 0.2, right, for 20% times 0.2 times 0.2. All of a sudden that's like a tiny number, and you have specific knowledge way beyond the 1%, and you're competing with a category of one or maybe a few different people. Right. So basically I took my knowledge, like I'm not the world's best exercise physiologist. Absolutely not. I'm not the world's best. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but I have a background in psychology. I'm not the best neuroscientist. I'm not the best content creator. I'm not the best like gym bro. I'm not the fittest person in the world, but I've combined my unique set of skills and I have this specific knowledge, right? So I'm like a specialized generalist, and I put myself beyond the 1%, and I become a big fish in a very small pond. And I've gotten lots of recognition for that. And so I think everyone on this planet knows something that you don't. everyone tuning in can be an expert in something. I think that they should try to find a way where they can take their life experience, reframe it in some way. Because look, I could have been here. I wouldn't be on this podcast, but I could have lived my life just continuing to play the victim card. Like, oh man, like I have a broken brain. Like I was just this kid, and like now I'm going to be I guess I'm going to be a depressed doctor and go to med school and just scrape on by. And yeah, I'll help people, like whatever. But no, like, you can reframe that life experience. Gaming, right? I spent so much time playing RuneScape. It's disgusting. Okay. It's disgusting. I used to be so hard on myself. I used to be like, wow, I wasted my time. Imagine what I could have done with that time. And I have realized I've actually gained something from it. I've learned to talk to people all over the world, different parts of the world. I've learned a little bit about what it means to just stick with something and level up, because it takes a long time to achieve 99 in any skill in RuneScape, right? Like I've taken all these skills and my life experience, and I've reframed that. And then I've taken my interests and I've combined them, and I've put myself beyond a 1% category. And so I think that what it takes is obviously knowing your physiology, reflecting on life experience, positively reframing it, and doing something that you're good at, but finding a blend of skills that will put you in this like one of one category. And all of a sudden you will be a 1%er. And if you read like the book Outliers, for example, you'll learn that a lot of people that end up being the best in the world at something, they just happen to be spending their time doing this one thing more than anybody else. And then all of a sudden it became relevant. And like, they just happen to become subject matter experts. And like, that wasn't their mission, but it just happened to be. So I think more of us need to reflect on how we've spent our lives already, because there are skills there that are relevant in some way, shape, or form, beyond what it was that you were doing. Like, for example, the internship that I had at the University of Miami, I worked underneath my professor, the head of nutrition and physiology. He developed a technology and a platform for remote physiological monitoring, for RPM. And basically I was helping employees improve their health and well-being by tracking and monitoring their data with wearable devices, smart skills, et cetera, and taking this data-driven approach to help them feel, be, and perform better. And, to me at that point in time, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. No one else is doing this, like whatever, right? All of a sudden, a couple of years later, COVID came around and people couldn't go to see the doctor anymore. Like they had to make sense of their data and connect with a health expert or a medical physician remotely and make sense of this. And so all of a sudden, what I had spent years of my life doing and becoming very, very good at became extremely relevant. And I tapped into that and I said, how can I make a business out of this? How can I help more people through data, through their health data, all from the comfort of my home and their home remotely? And so all of a sudden I became an expert in that. And I built a brand around what's the evidence-based science and material that's going to help you improve these markers, but also improve your subjective experience in your day-to-day. Mm-hmm. So I think more people just need to reflect, because otherwise the way that they've already spent their lives might seem like a waste of time, but there are skills you can derive there. So you have to look back, you have to reflect, and then combine these specific skills into something very meaningful.
I love it, man. It was very in-depth and very well thought out, and now everybody knows how they could start becoming a 1%er. So my man, tell us, last question for you. Where can everyone find you? How could they potentially work with you or get in touch?
Yeah, by the way, these are the fastest 40 minutes of my life. I can't believe it's already been 40 minutes. That's crazy. It's been a lot of fun. You guys got me. I don't know if it was the knick-knack or just the fun that we've had or both, everything. I feel incredible, and this has been awesome.
Yeah, the learning curve here too, man. We got to have definitely part 2 through 10 here.
We'll do it. I'd love to. And I'll tell you what, I'm happy that I shared kind of like my why and just the way that I think, because I think that's enough to really inspire people to start to ask better questions. And I think asking better questions is always going to lead you to a meaningful place.
I'm curious on how you do a natural sunset, but let's save that for the next one.
Shane, you gotta connect with him offline. He's the guy. Andres, go ahead, man. How can people connect with you?
Ways of it too, but it's just very good.
Yeah, I've got guides on this I can send you, and podcasts that I've done, and so much awesome material that we can dig into. I should say that, I've kind of zoomed out and I've described my standard process, but anytime I work with somebody, it's completely individual. Like it's completely personalized. It's really about their physiology. It's an N of 1 clinical study on themselves, basically. Anyway, people can find me, pretty much anywhere. Just look up my name, Andres Preschel. My website is andrespreschel.com. Our organization's website is Know Your Physio, KNOWYOUR HYSIO.org, not .com, .org. We've got a podcast, Know Your Physio, and my Instagram, Andres Preschel, where I'm active pretty much daily. And I share my life experience, science that I'm excited about. And if you want to apply to work with me, I mean, look, let's be clear, this is a premium service that I pride myself in, unlike anything else. I have a world-class team that helps me do this. And we're very specific about who we work with and how we work. So it is an application. This is our high season 2, beginning of the year. So if you wanted to apply and work with us, I'd love to see if and how we might be able to help. Just go to coaching.knowyourphysio.org or my website /coaching. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right, my man. I wish we had 10,000 hours to just do this podcast, but unfortunately we don't have nearly that. But it has been an absolute joy being able to see you display your passion, show the world a little bit of what you know. Guys, he knows so much more. Don't even be fooled. And please, 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 you heard it from him. Go check out how you could connect with him, how you could get some more info. He's got probably what we all need. I shouldn't even say probably. He's got exactly what we all need. So don't sleep on this man or his information. Go figure out how to learn more. And as always, thank you for tuning in to the 1% podcast. Andreas, stick around for 1 minute after the show. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, throw a comment down. Let us know your thoughts. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane. Bye, guys.
That was Andreas. See you, everybody.
Guys.